Welcome to our channel, HASHMICLINICS.
All right, welcome. Today we are diving into a remedy that is incredibly powerful but, often flies under the radar. Alnus Rubra, the Red Alder. Whether you've been in practice for decades or you're an advanced student, we're going to unpack the absolute key features that will help you really spot this remedy and bring it to life in your clinic. So here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with the very essence of Alnus. Then we'll walk through its mental sphere, the big generals and keynotes, its systemic symptoms. Then we'll get practical with causation and clinical use, and finally, we'll put it up against some other remedies to really sharpen our focus. So, let's start with the heart of the matter. What is Alnus? Well, it's a plant remedy from the birch family, and it loves to grow in damp, swampy places. And that's a great clue right there, because at its core, Alnus is what we call an alterative. It's a deep-acting remedy for what the old masters called strumous constitutions. You know the type, a tendency towards swollen glands, stubborn skin problems, and just a general deep-seated sluggishness in their whole system. So you hear this word alternative thrown around. What does it actually mean for us? Well, think of it this way. It's not a remedy that just papers over a symptom. It goes way deeper. It's designed to correct a fundamental imbalance, to restore healthy function, and to improve nutrition right at the cellular level. It's a system reset for chronic disease patterns.
And here is the absolute key. If you get one thing about its core action, get this. The genius of Alnus is its power to fix these profound nutritional problems. And where do we see the evidence? It's written all over the patient, on the skin, in the glands, and throughout the mucous membranes. That is its territory.
Okay, let's switch gears and look at the mental picture. This is so often where we find the key that unlocks the case, right? And with Alnus, things get really interesting. We're looking at a picture of pure contradiction. It's almost like you're dealing with two different people. On one hand, the patient can be mild, hardworking, carefree, even singing and talkative. But then, on the other hand, they can be this irritable, anxious, impatient person who's sad and blaming everyone around them. Seeing this swing, this polarity, is a massive clinical clue. Now, beyond that duality, there's one huge trigger you have to ask about: ailments from bad news. This can literally be the event that tips them into the pathological acne state. And along with that, you'll often see this backdrop of poor concentration, mental confusion, restlessness, and just a kind of heedless, careless quality. All right, let's get to the good stuff. The generals and the grand keynotes. These are the unmistakable signposts, the symptoms that just scream Alnus and make it pop right off the page. And here it is. If you remember one thing today, make it this. This is the grand keynote of Alnus Rubra. This idea of alternation is just so powerful. You might see a patient whose eczema finally clears up, but boom, the next week they have a raging sinus infection or a terrible leukorrhea. When you see symptoms playing whack-a-mole like this, trading places between the skin and the mucous membranes, Alnus has to be right at the top of your list. I love this next one. It's such a beautifully strange and peculiar symptom right out of the provings. This very specific head feeling, a heaviness as if they were hungover but they haven't touched a drop of alcohol. When a patient gives you something that specific, that's clinical gold. It's a huge confirming symptom. And these other keynotes, they all weave into the same story. Notice the specific details. A leukorrhea where the cervix is so fragile it just bleeds easily. Or an amenorrhea, a very distinct burning pain that travels from the back all the way to the pubis. On the skin, you look for these nasty, pustular, offensive crusts, particularly on the fingers. And it all comes full circle, tying back to indigestion from poor stomach secretions and those characteristically painless swollen glands. Okay, so let's do a quick survey of the particulars and just see how this whole pattern plays out across the different systems of the body. No surprise here. Its main stage is the skin and glands. We're talking about a whole range of chronic eruptions, herpes, eczema, even purpura. It even has a good reputation for helping with poison oak. And when it comes to the glands, it's those submaxillary ones right under the jaw that are especially targeted, which just reinforces its use in those strumulus glandular types. This remedy has a huge affinity for the female reproductive system. That leukorrhea with the easily bleeding cervical erosions is a major keynote. It also covers amenorrhea and difficult periods, but check out this specific modality, a left ovarian pain that is definitely made worse by any kind of jarring motion. Think of hitting a pothole in a car. That's fantastic. In the urinary system, you can think of it for those stubborn, chronic, gleedy discharges, or even for blood in the urine. And the pattern just continues right down the digestive tract. You'll see ulcerations of the mucous membranes in the mouth, in the throat. The indigestion, again, it's not random. It links right back to that core action on nutrition. And you'll see these specific pains. Pain in the rectum after a stool, pressing pains in the forehead or at the top of the head. It's all one coherent picture.
So, this all brings us to the practical side of things. What actually brings on the Alnus state? What makes it better or worse? And where are we really going to use it in the clinic? The cause is rooted in that deep constitutional soil, a background of psora, syphilis, or just that general strumous weakness. That's the chronic state. But the acute trigger, the spark that can light that whole fire, so often it's emotional, getting some really bad news. Now, Alnus isn't a remedy that's going to give you a long list of modalities. It's actually pretty spare, but that makes the ones we do have even more valuable. And there are two really clear ones to remember. The sore throat is made better by warm drinks, and that left ovarian pain is definitely made worse by jarring. Simple, but incredibly useful. So, if we pull this all together, when should the Alnus alarm bell be ringing in your head? Well, think of those stubborn chronic skin cases. Think of glandular enlargements or scrofula. Definitely for those deep-seated miasmatic issues, and of course, for significant female disorders. But don't forget it for cases of malnutrition, chronic rheumatism, and those persistent gliourethral discharges either. All right, in our last section, let's put Alnus up against a few of its closest relatives, because this is so crucial for precise prescribing. Knowing what a remedy isn't is just as important as knowing what it is. This comparison is just key. You might think of phytolacca, another fantastic glandular remedy, but its focus is really more on the throat and the breasts, or calliiodatum, also for glands, but you're looking for more of a syphilitic state with those acrid, watery discharges. And yeah, for alternating states, podofilm is the classic, but for what? For headache alternating with diarrhea. Alnus is unique. It owns the territory of skin symptoms alternating with mucous membrane issues. That's its signature. So let's just distill this all down into a simple prescribing pearl you can take with you. A 4-step mental checklist. First, identify that underlying constitutional weakness. Second, confirm that the case is centered on the skin, glands, or mucous membranes. Third, hunt for a keynote, especially that grand keynote of alternation. And fourth, and don't you forget it, always ask the question, did all of this start after you received some bad news? So, to sum it all up, Alnus Rubra is a potent, heavy-hitting tool for those really difficult, deep-seated chronic cases. Its absolute signature is a disturbance of nutrition that plays out in this incredible alternating drama between the skin and the body's mucous membranes. And I'll leave you with this final thought to take back to your own practice. Reflect on your current cases. In which chronic case, one where the symptoms seem to seesaw back and forth between the skin and the internal membranes, have you, perhaps, been missing Alnus Rubra?
Professor Dr. Rafat Hashmi is a distinguished homeopathic physician, educator, and researcher with over 4 decades of clinical and teaching experience. He is widely respected for his deep command of materia medica, repertory, and constitutional prescribing, combined with a practical, patient-centered approach. Dr. Hashmi has dedicated his career to training generations of homeopathic doctors, blending classical principles with modern clinical insight. He is also known for his innovative work in digital homeopathy, developing educational content, clinical tools, and AI-assisted systems to enhance remedy selection and case analysis. With a strong commitment to ethical practice and lifelong learning, Professor Dr. Rafat Hashmi continues to guide, inspire, and elevate the standards of homeopathic education and patient care.